Hi, everyone. Human beings by nature are social creatures. We generally like to be around other people. We generally seek comfort and support from others. We generally work best when we're in some form of community. Even though we're capable of being independent and living in solitude, it's like we're designed to work most effectively when we're in social groups with other people. And when we experience depression, one of the main areas of our lives that it can affect is our social relationships. This can take the form of withdrawing from social relationships because we don't have the motivation or interest to interact with others, which in turn means that we don't have the social support to buffer against the effects of stress or depression, and that can lead to even worsening mood. It's one of those negative cycles that I often talk about in depression. So this video is a continuation of our video series on managing and overcoming depression. And in the next few videos, we're going to focus on the impact of depression on our social functioning and ways of reversing the negative effects that depression can have on our social networks. So one question to think about is, are you completely satisfied with your social life, including how many people you socialize with, how much you socialize with other people, the amount of social support you get from others, how much you actually enjoy socializing, and the extent that you can maintain proper interpersonal boundaries through assertiveness. If you have no issues or problems in any of those areas of your social sphere, then you probably don't need to watch the rest of this video or the next few videos in this series. But the reality is, for many people with depression, their social relationships are almost always affected. This may take the form of entire sections of our social connections disappearing. People can completely withdraw and isolate themselves and go months without talking to or seeing friends. The amount of social connectedness they have with others declines to the point that they rarely interact with people outside of their immediate family or people at work. This can also take the form of problems and difficulties with close relationships and increased conflict or strain in the relationships that are most important. You see, in depression, we can often feel like we aren't living up to our own expectations of ourselves. But this can be made even worse when we don't live up to the expectations of other people. Our ability to function declines to the point that we're no longer behaving in a way that other people expect us to. I have no motivation and energy to do laundry or wash dishes, and my wife begins to get frustrated with me because she's having to take on more responsibility around the home. And this can lead to increased conflict or problems in those closest relationships. In terms of assertiveness, it's not uncommon for people who are experiencing depression to become more passive and withdrawn, feeling like it's just too much effort to deal with interpersonal conflict or stress, and so they just give in to the pushiness of other people. And this can result in them being taken advantage of by others because they don't have the motivation or energy to assert themselves and maintain their boundaries. And this can be an additional source of stress or pressure that can then negatively impact a person's mood. So the key point here is that depression has a major impact on your social relationships, and the negative impact that it has on those social relationships in turn serves to fuel the depression and make a person feel even worse. Therefore, improving your social network and improving your social relationships is a critical component in recovering from depression. Research studies have demonstrated that people with a strong and intact social support network tend to recover more quickly from depression, and having strong social support serves as a protective factor to prevent future episodes of depression. So with that in mind, the first step is to get a sense of the status of your current social support network. And to do this, what I often encourage people to do is to spend some time and work on what I call a social census. Essentially, thinking about who is currently in your social network and the nature of your relationships to those people. Now, the thing is, we often talk about social networks as some sort of amorphous blob or undefined set of people, like it's one broad group. But the reality is our social network is much more nuanced than that and can be thought of more like a bullseye rather than just a broad sphere of people. So, at the center of this bullseye is you, and from the center of this bullseye, there are various rings of people that you know or are connected to in some way. And the first ring is the people who are closest to us. Those are our close friends and intimate relationships. These are our closest family members, our partners, our very closest friends. You can share almost anything about your life with these people, and you're open to them about almost everything. The next ring of the circle are other friends. These are other people who you would consider friends. You feel comfortable sharing some personal information with them, but not everything. These are people you may get together with once every few weeks or months and enjoy spending time with them, but they're not your closest circle of people. You probably don't share with them the deep difficulties or challenges that you're having, and they may not share with you the more difficult aspects of their lives. These are kind of just casual, fun friendships. The next ring of people are your acquaintances. These are the people that you might spend some time with, but you don't feel especially close to. These are people like your coworkers or your neighbors. You may have polite conversations and share pleasantries with them, but you don't really share that much about your personal life with them, and they don't share that much with you. And the final ring of people I want to talk about is what I call the familiar faces. These are the people who you might recognize, and you may or may not know their names, but you see them in situations like at the gym or walking around in the neighborhood, or they may work at a shop that you go to regularly. These are the people that you see every once in a while, but don't really have that much of a connection to. So, thinking about this social census, this bullseye of people in your social group, what I encourage you to think about is how many people would you like to have in each of the rings of this bullseye? How many acquaintances would you like to have? How many other friends? How many close friends would you want? And be realistic when you think about this. While it might seem nice to have 100 really close friends, is that reasonable? And can you actually have meaningful, close relationships with that many people? So the first step is to think about the number of people in your ideal social network. Then the next step is to actually take a census of the people in your life. Who are your close friends and intimate relationships? Who are your other friends? Who are your acquaintances? Spend some time and write down the names of people in these various groups. And once you're done, count how many there are and compare your actual social network to what you'd consider to be your ideal social network. Now, the raw numbers of people in your social network doesn't really matter. What we're focused on is how much of a difference is there between your actual social network and your ideal social network. And for most people, especially those who are experiencing depression, there can be big differences between the actual and ideal. And that can be a problem because what it means is that we want more social connection and more social relationships than we actually have. So, if you find yourself in the situation where your actual social network is smaller than your ideal social network, the first thing is to recognize that that's pretty typical, even for people without depression. The goal here can't be to make your actual social network perfectly match your ideal social network. because that might not feel realistic. But the goal here is to reduce the difference between the actual and ideal social networks. Now, one of the things that clients will often tell me is that they actually don't want any social network, and that their ideal social network is one that involves having nobody around. And what I always point out is that that may be the depression's ideal social network, but it's not likely theirs. When people aren't experiencing depression, it's extremely rare that individuals don't want any social connections or any social contacts and just want to be isolated on their own. So if your ideal social network consists of nobody, remember, that's probably the depression talking and not what the healthy you actually wants. So this is an introduction to the idea of enhancing your social life as a way of managing depression. Future videos are going to focus on ways of building these various aspects of your social network, like deepening your current relationships, reviving old friendships, developing new friendships, creating a support team, and establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries using assertiveness. So I encourage you to keep an eye out for those videos as they come out. And in the meantime, if you're interested in learning more about how anxiety can affect your social relationships, I'd encourage you to check out this video. So that's all for today's video. As always, thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video, and I will see you in the next one.